should all testing requirements at border crossings be dropped?
Boy, that's a tough one. I think that's going to be tough because that's a government decision. So, personally, I think if the testing requirements can be easy and there's not a lot of waiting and it can be pretty turnkey, sure. But if it's going to cause more problems, I would say just cut out the testing.
I would say it can get loose a little bit instead of a completely dropped because I do see the symptoms as getting reduced. And also, like I said, the vaccination rate is going up. We see some people like getting COVID, but instead of going to ICU. So I do think the rule should lose a little bit, but if it's completely dropped, I'm not too sure.
I think testing at border crossings should be dropped. I think now, we don't even track our own cases now. So what's the point in tracking or testing people at border crossings? It'd be different if we were still tracking our own cases, but we're not.
Absolutely, they should be dropped. COVID is on both sides of the border. It's not, we're not going to stop it in either direction. We have it in Canada, we have it in the US. I just think it's unnecessary. At this point in time, when we know what we know about the virus, what we know about how it's transmitted, it's time to lift all mandates, in my opinion.
I think they should be dropped again in time, like probably by the end of the year would be reasonable. Not, of course, not speaking as a public health expert, but keeping them in place for now, it's an inconvenience, absolutely, but it certainly doesn't hurt.
I think maybe it might depend on the country, depending on their level of infection. But if we're willing to relax our rules locally, then I think that should, in terms of the states and specifically, then I think that should be relaxed to the same level.
I don't think they should be dropped, but I think within reason. So people in industry that are frequent flyers or have to drive across the borders, for sure they need to have some exemptions. But if you're going to travel right now, it's just to take care of the people on the other end and also when you come back. So I think it's reasonable if you're traveling for fun.
No, I don't think so. I know that sometimes it's been known that the tests aren't as accurate as we want them to be, but I do think that they might be at least a stop sign on the road to getting worse. So it could be catching things that we wouldn't know otherwise. So probably, yeah.
No.
Why not?
It seems like an okay thing to do, and I do travel back and forth between the States and Canada very frequently, and it's certainly a really frustrating thing to deal with, but I understand why they do it, so it makes sense to me.
I think it should, yes. I don't think that travel is an issue anymore with COVID when the pandemic first happened. I think it's in our own provinces, it's in our own little area, so I don't think testing at border crossings is going to prevent COVID or anything at this point anymore.
Yes, I think so. It has been very confusing for people who are wanting to start to travel again. Because there's PCRs, there's antigen, there's many different types of tests that take 1 day or 3 days. So people are very unsure of what tests that they should be getting. It should be a lot clearer from all countries, not just Canada.
I think it's good to do all the testing because you don't want to potentially expose more people to the pandemic. I just moved from Ontario, and I'm glad that they did the testing because once I got here, I actually tested positive and had to quarantine. Yeah, but I didn't test positive in Ontario when I left. I think so. I think that it should be dropped just because I know that you have to test when you're back, and, I think that's more effective, is testing when you're back and having to quarantine based on those results. I'm just not sure how effective it is having to test right before you get into the border. It feels maybe not the best way. I think keeping up with your test results after you're here and making sure you're COVID-free when you're back is the best way. Instead of being stuck somewhere else, having to quarantine or do something like that, it makes it a lot more difficult. And people need to travel for a lot of different reasons, so.
I don't think so, because COVID started by things coming into the country, so I think we should continue to regulate that.
Yeah, I think they should continue. sure, life's starting to feel a little normal here, but that can also change very quickly. So I think it's important to regulate those things over the next little bit here to see if, something comes up that we haven't seen before, or, maybe there is nothing, but at least, a test of 30 minutes isn't going to cause you too much hassle.
For people that are fully vaccinated, yes. For those that are not vaccinated at all, no, you still keep them up. Because right now in the United States, in the last week, the other variant of Omicron is up 20-some-odd%. So there's a wave starting to happen in the United States. It's already happening in France. So who knows what it's going to be? But if you're not vaccinated, you're a really good vector for transmission. So yeah, I support that if you're not vaccinated.
Well, I think the recent testing requirements for truck drivers, I mean, that might, we're having difficulties with the supply chain as it is. And I don't think there was a problem before when they weren't being tested. So as far as that is concerned, I'd say we drop that one. But at the same time, we need to be very careful at the border as well on who we're letting in, and we need to ask some questions.
I definitely, again, agree. I think, definitely be careful with borders. I think we want to welcome people and not deter.
No, because we should still test people, because I believe that here in Canada we have the most people vaccinated, but coming from South, they were very, very against that. So I think we have to test coming in.
You don't know anybody. You don't know where they've been. You don't know what community they come from. You know what I mean? Like when I go to the grocery store, I don't know if the person was at five different countries, you know what I mean, before they got back. Like, it's just one extra level of security, and I think it's different because, I do have 2 small kids, and one struggles with immunity issues, that one extra layer of protection makes me happy.